My entitled coworker, let's call her Brenda, actually thought she could bully me into handing over half of my hard-earned performance bonus. She cornered me in the break room, screaming that she deserved it more because her life is harder than mine. And when I refused, she tried to ruin my reputation and get me fired for wage theft. She thought she was the office golden child who could do no wrong. She thought I was just a pushover who would buckle under the pressure of her lies. But what Brenda didn't know was that I document everything. I had timestamps, email logs, and a secret audio recording of her admitting she hadn't done a single lick of work on the project she was claiming credit for. She walked into that HR meeting with a smug grin, thinking she was about to cash a check she didn't earn, but she had no idea she was walking straight into a buzzsaw. Watch how she instantly regret crossing me when the evidence dropped and her entire career evaporated in seconds. I work at a high-stakes logistics firm where the base pay is decent, but the real money, the change-your-life money, comes from the quarterly performance bonuses. These aren't participation trophies. They are calculated based on specific metrics, billable hours, client retention, and project completion rates. If you kill it, you get paid. If you coast, you get your base salary and a stern talking to. I have been grinding for the last 3 years to build up my net worth and save for a down payment on a house. I am the first one in, usually at 7:30 a.m., and the last one out, rarely leaving before 7 p.m. I eat lunch at my desk, I dream in spreadsheets, and then there's Brenda. Brenda's the definition of delusional. She sits 3 cubicles down from me, and if looking busy was an Olympic sport, she'd take home the gold. She spends the first 2 hours of the day doing her makeup in the bathroom. The next 3 hours are spent loudly recounting her weekend drama on personal calls, usually complaining about her ex-husband and her ongoing battles in family court. Despite doing about 10% of the work, Brenda walks around with an air of superiority that is honestly baffling. She acts like the company would collapse without her, even though I've personally had to fix her errors on 3 separate occasions just to keep my projects from tanking. To make matters worse, our old manager, Gary, had a soft spot for her. He let her slide on deadlines and ignored her long lunches. This created a monster. She genuinely believed she was the golden child of the department. 2 months ago, our team landed Project Atlas, a massive contract that required an all-hands-on-deck approach. Gary announced that the bonus for this quarter would be tripled for the top performer on the project. I'm gonna crush this, I told myself. This is the down payment money. Yet for 8 weeks, I ceased to have a life. I worked weekends. I skipped family dinners. I barely slept, but my eyes were permanently bloodshot, and my stress levels were through the roof. Meanwhile, Brenda, she contributed exactly nothing. Every time I asked her for her portion of the data, she had an excuse. "Oh, I'm just so swamped with these invoices," she'd say, while I could clearly see she was browsing luxury handbags on her second monitor. "I need to leave early today. My family court lawyer needs to meet," she'd claim, walking out at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I picked up her Slack, I did her data entry, I wrote the reports she was supposed to write, because if the project failed, nobody got a bonus. I was exhausted, fueled only by caffeine and rage. But I got it done. Project Atlas launched without a hitch, and the client was ecstatic. I knew I had secured the bag. I just didn't realize I had also secured a target on my back. The email hit my inbox at 9 a.m. on Friday. Subject Q3 performance bonus notification. My heart hammered against my ribs. My palms were sweating so much I had to wipe them on my slacks before I could click the mouse. I opened the attachment. There it was, $25,000. I sat back in my chair, letting out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 2 months. That was it. That was the safety net I needed. It was validation for every missed hour of sleep. I allowed myself a small, silent fist pump. I went to the break room to get coffee, feeling like I was walking on air. The room was empty except for Brenda. She was leaning against the counter, scrolling on her phone. She looked up. her eyes narrowing as she saw my expression. "You look happy," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Just got the bonus notification," I said, trying to be modest, but failing to hide my smile. "It was a good quarter." Brenda straightened up, putting her phone down. "Oh, night. So, how much did we get?" I paused, confused. "What do you mean we? It's individual performance. Brenda, you got your own email." Her face fell. "I didn't get an email." The silence stretched for 10 uncomfortable seconds. Then, the entitlement kicked in. "Well," she huffed, crossing her arms, "Gary probably just forgot to copy me, but since you got the notification for the team, how much is the total pot? $25,000? $30,000? Brenda," I said slowly, "the $25,000 isn't a pot. It's my bonus, based on my metrics." I watched her face cycle through shock, denial, and finally, pure, unadulterated rage. Her face turned a blotchy shade of red. $25,000, she shrieked. "You got $25,000. I worked 80-hour weeks for 2 months," I shot back, my defensive walls going up. "That is not fair," she yelled, slamming her hand on the counter. "We were partners on Project Atlas. That money belongs to the team. You need to transfer half of that to me. Right now." I actually laughed. It was an involuntary, incredulous laugh. "Are you joking? You left at 2 p.m. every day? I did your data entry. I wrote your reports. I have kids," she screamed, taking a step toward me. "I have bills. I have a mortgage. You're single. You live in a cheap apartment. You don't even need that money. I have family court fees that are drowning me. How can you be so selfish? My financial situation and your financial situation are not relevant to who did the work," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "I earned it." "You didn't," she sneered at me, a look of pure venom. "You think you're so special? You only looked good because I handled the administrative side so you could focus. I facilitated your success. If you don't send me $12,500, which is only fair, I'm gonna make sure everyone knows what a greedy, backstabbing thief you are." "I'm not giving you a dime, Brenda," I said, turning to leave. "Fine," she hissed, "then watch what happens." By lunch, the atmosphere in the office had shifted. I walked past the cubicles, and 3 coworkers stopped talking immediately. I caught snippets of whispers, took credit for her work. Doesn't even have a family to support. She was controlling the narrative. She was painting me as the villain who stole bread from her starving children's mouths. But she had made one fatal mistake. She assumed I was just a worker bee. She didn't realize I was preparing for war. On Monday morning, I was called into HR. The HR director, a stern woman named Mrs. Higgins, sat behind a large oak desk. Brenda was already there, holding a tissue to her dry eyes, looking like a grieving widow. "Sit down," Mrs. Higgins said, her voice icy. "Brenda has filed a formal complaint regarding the distribution of credit for Project Atlas. She claims you misappropriated her work to inflate your metrics, effectively stealing her bonus." Brenda sniffled loudly. I trusted him. We were supposed to be a team. I did all the back-end coding and the client correspondence, and he put his name on it at the last second. My blood boiled. It was a lie so bold, so delusional, that it was almost impressive. "This is a serious accusation," Mrs. Higgins said, looking at me. "Wage theft and intellectual property theft are grounds for immediate termination. If we find you claimed her work, we will not only claw back the bonus, but we will also consider legal action." "I want him fired," Brenda sobbed, "and I want the $25,000 transferred to me for the emotional distress." I looked at Brenda. She briefly met my eyes, and for a split second, the crying act dropped, and she gave me a look of pure smugness. She thought she had won. She thought the poor mother card trumped facts. "Are you finished?" I asked calmly. "Excuse me?" Mrs. Higgins frowned. "I asked if you are finished with the accusations, because I'd like to present the evidence. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick binder. I thudded it onto the desk. "What is this?" Brenda asked, her voice cracking slightly. "This," I said, opening the binder, "is the version history log for every single document in Project Atlas." I pointed to the first page. As you can see, every major commit to the code base is tagged with my user ID. The timestamps show I was working on these files at 8 o'clock p.m., 9 o'clock p.m., and even 11 o'clock p.m. on Saturdays. I flipped the page. Here are the email logs. Brenda claims she did the client correspondence. Here are 45 emails between the client and me. Here are the 0 emails between the client and Brenda. Brenda stopped sniffling. She shifted in her seat. "Well, I use my personal phone for calls." "And here," I interrupted, pulling out a USB drive. "Is the audio recording from the break room on Friday?" Brenda went pale. "And you recorded me, that's illegal." "Actually," I smiled, "this state has a one-party consent law for recording conversations. I am the one party. Would you like to hear Brenda admit that she barely worked and simply deserved the money because she has kids?" I didn't wait for an answer. I pressed play on my phone, audio. "You think you're so special? You don't even need that money. I have family court fees. If you don't send me $12,500, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what a greedy, backstabbing thief you are." The silence in the room was deafening. Mrs. Higgins' face went from stern to furious. She slowly turned her gaze toward Brenda. "Brenda," Mrs. Higgins said, her voice dangerously quiet, "did you lie to HR? Did you attempt to extort a coworker?" I was just emotional," Brenda stammered. Standing up. "He's twisting it. He's manipulating you. This is a hostile work environment. Sit down," Mrs. Higgins barked. "You just admitted to blackmail and filing a false report to obtain funds. Do you have any idea the amount of legal trouble you are in?" "But my inheritance," Brenda babbled nonsensically, grasping at straws. "My grandmother promised me money, but she died and I didn't get it. I need this bonus. It's not fair." "This meeting is over," Mrs. Van Higgins said. "Brenda, surrender your badge. Security will escort you to your desk to collect your personal items. You are terminated effective immediately for gross misconduct, attempted fraud, and harassment." Brenda's jaw dropped. "You can't do this. I'll sue. I'll see you in court." "I suggest you save your money for a lawyer, Brenda," I said, unable to resist. "Sounds like you're going to need one for more than just family court now." She screamed, literally screamed, as security dragged her out of the office. It was the sweetest sound I have ever heard. That was instant karma served on a silver platter. It has been 3 weeks since the incident, and the office is a paradise. With Brenda gone, the toxic atmosphere she claimed existed has completely vanished. The coworkers who were giving me the cold shoulder apologized. It turns out Brenda had told them I hacked her computer to delete her work. Once the truth came out, they were horrified they had believed her. I kept every cent of my $25,000 bonus. I immediately put it into a high-yield savings account as part of my house fund. But here's the karma cherry on top. I found out through the office grapevine that Brenda tried to apply for unemployment. The company contested it immediately, submitting the audio recording and the HR report as evidence of termination for cause. She was denied benefits. Even better, she actually tried to sue the company for wrongful termination and discrimination. I spoke to Mrs. Higgins yesterday, who, by the way, loves me now because I saved her from a potential lawsuit nightmare, and she told me that the company's legal team countersued Brenda for the salary she was paid during the 2 months of Project Atlas, where she did 0 work. Citing fraudulent misrepresentation of labor, Brenda is now facing a legal battle against a corporate legal team that smells blood. She wanted my money to pay for her family court issues. Now she has to pay for a defense attorney against my company. 2, she thought she was entitled to my life. Now she's losing hers. Don't mess with the person who keeps the receipts. Now I have a question for you guys. What would you have done in that break room? Would you have laughed in her face like I did? Or would you have gone straight to HR immediately? And be honest, have you ever had a coworker try to steal credit for your work? Tell me your horror stories in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed watching Brenda get served some instant karma, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We post new stories of revenge, drama, and justice every single day, and you do not want to miss the next one. Stay petty, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next video.